You know, something funny I've noticed is that extremely successful people, at least the ones that I've met, they've all been extremely humble, kind, polite, generous, just extremely giving of themselves. Most people have this idea that successful people or rich people, people with a lot of wealth, that they're greedy, they're selfish, they got there on the backs of the poor and they exploited people. But what I found is that, you know, the really successful people, the people who have a ton of money, they're actually the nicest, most giving people out there. They're actually extremely God-fearing, humble, reserved a lot of the time, and they just want to give back to people. You know, most people are afraid to give because they operate with a mentality of scarcity and an attitude that there's not enough. When these people, these successful, these rich people, they operate with a mentality and attitude of abundance, that there's more enough to go around. There's more than enough to give to every single person. So these people that are ignominiously labeled as greedy or selfish pigs, they actually are the ones that give back the most. And it's probably because they realize that it's in giving that we receive. You know, in the Bible it says, it is in giving that we receive. These successful people, these rich people, they know that when they give of themselves, whether it's their time, talents, or treasure, they know that when they give of themselves, they're actually going to get that back in some form. Of course, that's not why they do it, but they recognize that that is a benefit of it. Whereas everyone else kind of just thinks like, oh, I can't give, you know, I don't have enough to give, there's not enough. You know, I always thought that in order to be successful or be really rich, you had to be like these people who are already rich. People like Donald Trump, who, you know, have their fancy suits and they have their tall buildings and they're kind of known for being egotistical and self-absorbed. But the most successful people, the richest people, actually aren't like that. Like Warren Buffett lives in Omaha and he lives in like a relatively small house. You know, granted, he has other things, but far and beyond, most of the successful people I've met in my life, they've been humble, caring, and giving. They haven't focused really on themselves. They've always focused on giving to other people, and that's actually what made them successful. And you know, in Good to Great by Jim Collins, he conducted a thorough analysis of some of the most successful companies of all time, the ones that went from being good companies to being great companies. And what he found was that in companies that didn't make the jump from good to great, the ones that did not become great companies, they were led by that stereotypical CEO. The ones that were boisterous, the ones that had huge egos, the ones that were extremely charismatic. And it's not to say that being charismatic is bad, but what he found was that the CEOs who didn't make the jump from good to great were the ones who were really focused on themselves. Whereas of the 11 companies that did make the jump from good to great, every single one of those CEOs was humble, kind, polite, and oftentimes described as shy. So we shouldn't feel like we have to conform to these stereotypical models of what it means to be rich and successful. You know, we don't have to live in that big house, we don't have to drive that really fancy car, and we definitely don't have to buy some $10,000 watch that's not going to return anything on our investment except build up our ego even more. Not only can we be humble, polite, loving, and giving of others and be successful, but honestly, that's usually the recipe for being successful, is being kind, humble, polite, giving to others. Contrary to what people think, you don't have to be selfish. It's actually the selfish people who actually do worst. The best people, the people who affect the most change and do the most with their lives, the people who are truly successful, they're actually the people who give away the most. So don't be afraid to be a good person, to let the other person have the last word, to not squeeze someone for every last penny. Because honestly, more often than not, that's what's going to make you successful. Not being selfish, not being self-absorbed. Just be a good person. Hey guys, thanks for watching the video. I really hope you enjoyed it. You know, that's something that's really been close to my heart lately, is just figuring out that you can still be a good person and be successful. So if you didn't see last week's video, you can check it out in this corner over here. But other than that, you know, if there's anything you want me to talk about, just comment down below. You know, if you did like this video, give it a like, give it a subscribe, share it, do whatever you want, watch it 100 times. Doesn't really matter, but hope you got something from it.